Hey everybody, so we're in the studio today and I'm really excited to report out on Charge Across America. Today in the studio, we've got Mike Landau, the CEO of ParkMyFleet, and Kristin Slanina, the Chief Innovation Officer of ParkMyFleet and the Managing Director of Charge Across America. So welcome both to the show.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for having us, Steve.
So before we get into Charge Across America, which is very exciting in and of itself, let's talk a little bit about your backgrounds in the automotive industry and an overview of ParkMyFleet. For those who don't know, what is ParkMyFleet and what do you both do?
Thanks so much, Steve. So I'm Mike Landau. I'm the CEO and founder of ParkMyFleet. And what ParkMyFleet does is three main things on a national level in the United States. The first is obviously we park vehicles at scale for fleets. In 36 different locations right now, and ever expanding on our geographic locations to additional metropolitan areas. Then we do fleet services, so that's everything from replacing auto glass to on-site refluing to key cutting. We do all of that in support of many different mobility verticals. And then the third thing we do is we charge people's fleets. So we charge everything from the smallest to the largest type of Class 8 vehicle.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it very much. All right. So let's transition into Charge Across America. So this is a really, really cool concept, but share with our listeners today, what is it and what was the vision that initially started this thing?
So since we're electrifying all the ParkMyFleet locations, we thought that it would be a really good exercise for our executive team to go and see what the current existing EV infrastructure looks like today. So, we were kind of in conversations with multiple EV partners, and we kind of thought it would be a cool thing to do. But really, it's one thing to talk about electrification. It's another thing to experience it on the ground firsthand, physically plugging in a car that you're dependent on to get from point A to point B. In a rally type format, we thought would be really good at kind of elucidating, demystifying everything that surrounds EV.
And Steve, what's really ironic is that this is my 30th anniversary of when I was on the MIT solar car team at school. So did my bachelor's and master's in mechanical, and I was co-captain and driver of the solar car team, and we did 3 races. And so as I was telling Mike, what I did, he was like, oh my gosh, we've got to do this. You have to be the managing director and make this happen. And then I was like, you know what? Absolutely. Like, how cool is this to really create history and conduct and orchestrate an event that can really teach us a lot about the future? And I know we'll get into some more questions later and we'll go into that. But that's what was really exciting for me. It really struck a chord in my heart, and it was very personal.
Cool. Well, I'm imagining back in my childhood when Smokey and the Bandit was trying to do the cannonball run across the U.S. and they had Lamborghinis and Trans Ams. But give us an idea of some of the vehicles that you guys were using.
Oh my gosh. So we wanted to have really cool cars. So, okay, I live in Ford country and spent 21 years at Ford. So we had to have a Ford Mustang Mach-E, right? And 2 really hot looking cars. We had 2, because I wanted to make sure that we had 2 of the same to really look at the influence of the drivers on the car. So we had 2 Porsche Taycans, and we also had a Volkswagen ID4. We had a Polestar, and then our backup car was an Audi e-tron.
Nice. So how did you pick the drivers?
Oh, that was kind of fun.
We ran a process where we had people apply to be drivers from across the spectrum, with really the goal of trying to get the full tapestry of what America is today. So we wanted a mother-son team, we wanted a husband and wife team, we wanted 2 people that had never met each other before, we wanted people of an older generation, we wanted people of younger generations, and I think that we really got that in a cross spectrum. And Kristin, who had to spend many, many hours looking through people's kind of application videos and deciding on who was the best, could probably speak to that a little bit better than I.
Our teams were fantastic. Awesome. And the thing that I wanted is we had 3 teams that had never driven an EV before. And I felt like the filming of that and showing their learning curve that was going to be kind of inspirational to everybody else, and just fantastic. So can't wait to show you the video, Steve, of the race.
That's great. That's great. So how did you choose a route, and then what were some unexpected things that came up along the way?
So with the route, we wanted to make sure that the route was absolutely possible. So we actually partnered with a team called Road.Travel, and they plugged into the APIs of the charging infrastructure, so both the Tesla and the non-Tesla. So I drove the Tesla vehicle the whole way. I was going to be kind of the lead car, and so we didn't want to overextend. We were already stress testing the system in a way, right? With 5 cars going the same route using the non-Tesla infrastructure and not kind of dividing and conquering. And also because they needed to charge on the clock, they weren't charging overnight, which is like what you and I would be doing if we're on a road trip. So we were stress testing the system. So we had Road.Travel plug into those APIs so that we can make sure it was possible. And there was a little bit of a concern area in Colorado where there was a zone with 160 miles of no charging. But all the cars were going to be capable of that. But they needed to plan in advance and be aware. And so that was kind of the concern, but they all made it through great. And they certainly were pushing the cars. But the route we chose through certain locations, we wanted some small town USAs, wanted to hit Detroit and the Vegas Speedway, and basically, start, of course, in New York and end in LA. And so it wasn't the most direct route, but it was an extremely, I think, interesting, textureful route. And it was absolutely possible, and we proved that.
Very cool. What was the biggest surprise that you had?
I mean, I think that just the performance of the existing non-Tesla infrastructure network, getting used to it, and at no fault to the owners of this infrastructure, but rather the sparsity of it, the lack of it, the miles and miles in between chargers. Was the biggest surprise to me. My biggest takeaway from this was, man, there's a lot of work to do in the EV charging realm. So I guess, we were kind of expecting it, and we had heard about range anxiety, but when you experience it kind of firsthand, my biggest takeaway was, wow, we've got a lot of work to do. And then, kind of while we were on the route, the infrastructure bill passed, and that kind of reflected on how much money it's going to take, how much effort it's going to take, how joint partnerships between government and just regular business are going to be needed to kind of bring this thing to fruition.
And Steve, what we showed is that it is absolutely possible, and they did it, 5 teams simultaneously. And what's clear to me, kind of as an engineer with a 30-year background in automotive, is that it is clear we need the same kind of standards that we have with gasoline and ICE engines, where we don't have a different nozzle with every different OEM. And how do we ensure the reliability and the consistency of this charging structure that exists, especially as we proliferate it?
Great point. Great point. So I was really intrigued with this point system. Tell us a little bit more about the point system that you implemented.
So the intent is that people have done cannonballs, right? And it's not all about speed. And just like with the solar car race, we actually had, it was like a rally. We had legs each day, and this was in 1991. We had a 5-day race from Albany, New York to Plymouth, Massachusetts. And you could get time off your time, but you had to recognize that, okay, what is the sun today and the angle of the sun, and that you had to only charge with the sun that day and prepare for the next day. So we had to do a lot of strategic decision making as a team. And that's what I wanted to put into and infiltrate into the Charge Across America race. So it wasn't just like, okay, the fastest time wins. It was, okay, you can get points for the fastest time. So we had a gradated scale, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. But you could also get points for doing extra stops, which would mean it would take time and charge. And as I said, we wanted them to strategically think about the efficiency of them driving, so that because they were only going to be able to charge on the clock. So would they turn on their heat or their AC in the warmer weather, or use their radio, right? And we heard some great stories of the cameramen in the back, like sweating to death because they refused to turn on the AC. But it was about, strategy. And that's what actually ended up happening. It wasn't about the fastest time overall.
Very cool. Very cool. So I noticed road travel at the website, which is very interesting to me. What's their background and why did you partner with them?
So Road.Travel, I had actually crossed paths with in a future job that I had, and I really was intrigued about it, and especially when COVID comes into play, right? Because people were not flying at all, and doing road trips was a big deal. And so I had really liked their business model and how they have, and it's like in a sense having like a concierge in your car with you, giving you great tips about the area that you're in, sites to visit, sites of interest, and just information. And so partnering with them, I thought was a great win-win, because we need to move more towards EV curated routes. And so they were very interested in doing that. So it was a synergistic thing. Okay, like plug into the APIs and help us with our route and make sure it's valid. And we can like propose that other people, like I want people to do this route. Like we did it. And it is possible. We had all these teams go through it, and they can also tailor it, and they can learn, have fun, and if they want to do some deviations, the whole plan of Road.Travel is to encourage EV routes that make you feel comfortable, that you're not going to have that range anxiety that Mike had mentioned.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, in addition to Road.Travel, I know you had other sponsors, so take the opportunity to shout out to them right now if you'd like.
Yeah, so when we were putting together our list of sponsors, it was really important for us that it reflect all of the mobility ecosystem. And we have everybody from US Bank who we're appreciative to Electrify America, whose network we utilized probably about 80 to 90% of the time to charge. And they were really great, rebooting stations for us, giving us guidance, answering technical questions to your stations, do split charging, and stuff like that. So Electrify America was awesome. US Bank and the Voyager card was the official card of the program and helped power us through payments throughout the race. And we're just forever appreciative to everybody that kind of sponsored and made up the ecosystem. I know that Kristin's got some sponsors that are near and dear to her as well.
Yeah, we were looking too, as Mike said, about that ecosystem. So, we wanted to give a shout out to Cambridge Mobile Telematics that I actually crossed paths with when they first started. It's an MIT startup company, and we use their telematics. And actually, one of the rankings that we had that gave points to the teams at the end of the 10-day journey was about their efficiency rating, and they also monitored the speeding, because people had to follow the speed limits and the rules of the road. And, certainly there's transitions, but if you're going to be speeding, you get points taken off. So Cambridge Mobile was really great with that scoring. And also Velodyne LiDAR, of which I'm a board member on. It's all about the future of autonomous, electric, and connected. And they jumped on as a sponsor, and we really appreciate that as well. And Thirdware, which is about technology, and that's a company that I worked at as Chief Transformation Officer. And they helped us sponsor our American Center for Mobility event here in Detroit. So really appreciate these sponsors. And we have many, many more that you can see on our website.
Yeah, just real quick, logistically, Ship Your Car Now was instrumental in getting the vehicles from point A to point B. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the EV Power Pod, which kind of followed the race for the first half and emergency charged people all over the place. They emergency charged me at a truck stop in Ohio when we ran out of juice.
Wow.
And one of our teams on the side of the highway. So big shout out to them as well. And big shout out to Automotive Ventures for hosting us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. So NBC coverage, and our viewers can tune into NBC to see Charge Across America. Tell us a little bit about how that came about, and then specifically the day and time and what they can expect to see when they do dial in.
Oh my God, yeah, NBC Sports Network. So December 21st, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and there'll be a second showing at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And so you guys have to tune in. It's going to be fabulous. Tangent Vector had connections, and that's the filming company that we hired throughout the 10 days. That was invaluable, and they connected us with that. Really great showing, and it's been hard to cut the footage. We have so much excellent footage, and we're hoping to take that and do other things with it. But absolutely have to watch it, and that came through Tangent Vector. So, and that's information is all on our website as well. So stay tuned.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Mike, Kristin, it's been a pleasure catching up today. Congratulations. Anything else that we missed that our audience should know about?
Well, maybe I just summarize kind of on the nerdy side here is that for me personally, as I said, I drove every single mile of that 3,300 miles across country in the Tesla. And it was so invaluable for me personally to experience firsthand the state of the infrastructure and what it was like to do this journey. And how I want to use this is to craft ideas and create new opportunities for mass adoption. Things are going to have to be a little bit different for mass adoption, and so I'm really excited about that future.
Great. Mike?
Just that, since we released this, it's really started to gain a lot of traction. And we've had people contact us about charge across Europe and charge across specific states and really try to demystify this or continue to demystify everything that surrounds EV. So we're really excited about a season 2 and going international with it. And we think that there's a lot of really important partners that can be part of this ecosystem as we further develop the project. So we're excited about it.
All right. Well, sign me up for Charge Across Australia.
All right, Steve.
There you go.
I'm with you.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining today, and we will put details up about how to tune in to NBC. And I appreciate your time today, and congratulations again.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve.
All right. Thanks, everybody.